I just wanted to come on here and say I'm sorry. I voted for him and I thought he was going to make things better for folks like us.
I'm just going to say that if I lived in a high rise in Florida right now, I'd be getting the fuck out. Especially near the beach, on a wetland. My little cousin is a realtor in Miami, and he told me a couple of years ago, that you can't even insure condos in Miami anymore because the insurance companies are like, no, we're not going to insure that. It's going to fall down. Not me. Won't catch me sleeping there. Nope.
An entire industry collapsed right in front of us, and very few people noticed. I have to be honest, I was one of those people. I didn't understand. I'm talking about oranges, Florida oranges specifically. And the fact that that industry has collapsed in the last basically 2 decades by 95%. To give you some context of how bad this is, in 2003, Florida produced about 242 million boxes of oranges. Now that's about 12 million boxes of oranges. In 1977, Florida had 53 orange processing plants. Now it has 4. And one of those is only used for cold storage for juice imported from Brazil. Now, if you were to read the headlines, you would be told that this is because largely of a bug, the citrus psyllid, which bites the leaves of the orange trees, and that gets bacteria into the system of the tree, and it basically kills the tree from the inside out. And this absolutely has been a significant cause of the production, and it's been something that now they are essentially saying is not curable. But there's also pretty good evidence that because they used an herbicide called glyphosate, that essentially they really wreaked havoc on the soil biome. The combination of greening caused by this bug that bites the leaves and kills the trees, and then an ever-decreasing soil biome made it really difficult to produce oranges, and now we see the result of that. So add on top of this the housing crash in 2007. A lot of the protections that were put in place for wetlands were essentially gutted because Florida was doing everything they could to encourage more development. Well, that then downstream means that a lot of the land that was used for producing oranges is now prime real estate development area, and they're just not growing oranges because they're building houses or property. And then you introduce private equity. In 1998, PepsiCo buys Tropicana. Obviously, the brand of oranges, the brand of orange production in Florida is going downhill. So they actually offload Tropicana to private equity. And private equity does what private equity does. It loaded up the company with debt. That's a whole other video, a whole other time. Now, it's worth noting that the orange is actually not native to Florida. And so that's why I think this is a very interesting observational lens into the hubris of man. But to see an industry collapse, 242 million boxes to 12 million boxes of oranges, to know that the orange juice on your table probably 20 years ago came from Florida, but now much more likely today comes from Brazil, is a lens into how all of these factors are impacting our lives. And when we look at, for example, what we might see in the future if we don't consistently reopen the Strait of Hormuz, well, whether it's on your table or in your wallet or at the gas pump, all of these decisions are interconnected. Now, orange, you glad you know.
I talk to veterans daily that have been through all kinds of wars, and I'm never a fan of this. He was a no-war president, and now we're at war.
He thought this was going to be simple. It's more complex than that. An idiot could have figured this out, but unfortunately not our president. Look at where we were before the war. The strait was open. He already claimed he'd obliterated their nuclear capacity. Well, either he lied then or he's lying now.
He's totally incompetent. He shouldn't be president. And I will say that because I voted for him the first time.
I'm wondering what it was for you that changed your mind about
Because he's
Trump.
a fucking dirtbag. Okay, we're going to take away food from kids. We're going to take away stuff from disabled people. For what? What did we accomplish in Iran?
Nothing.
Nothing.
How do you feel when you see all of these House Republicans, all of them falling in line and backing it up?
They're cowards and hackers. They got no balls, no what we would call intestinal fortitude. You swear to the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I still believe in that. They took the fucking oath too.
We just spent $100 billion in Iran. What do you actually want that money going for here in America?
We have some shoddy infrastructure. I know that they feed kids during the summer sessions during the school who can't afford to eat. I think they call it food insecurity. Yeah. We call it fucking poverty. When I was a kid, we can feed our kids. There shouldn't be a hungry person in this whole country. There should be nobody on the street. No, it's time to take this country back. This belongs to us, not to them.
This is why I will never forgive Trump voters. I try and have a nice and peaceful, calm dinner by the ocean here. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful evening. And I just got told I should be thrown in prison because I make the content I do online. I was just sitting there having my Prosecco, watching the World Cup match. And this woman, probably, I would say in her 50s, just decides to go off. And naturally, after a drink, it's me. So I say no. And I got told I should be thrown in jail. But she's not going to report me. Isn't that kind of her? Isn't that kind? And I just wanted to enjoy the World Cup match by the ocean. It's a beautiful sunset here in Rhode Island. And now, like everything else in this country, it is just gone to absolute hell. So I don't care if you voted for him 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. You are done in my book because of people like that and attitudes like that. Have a great evening.
Florida tourism collapsing. Florida is suffering due to a 40% decrease in Canadian visitors in 2025. If you did not know, Canadian visitors make up the largest group of international tourists that visit the United States of America. Did you know that Canadians, our largest international group of tourists, are boycotting the USA? You heard me correctly. Canadians are boycotting the USA in tourism and in products. This is going to cost Florida anywhere from $38 billion to $50 billion loss annually. Hi, my name's Christina. I have a master's degree in accounting and business. This all started with the trade war and also threatening to make Canada the 51st state. And then it has escalated with ICE raids and further bullying of most countries. If you did not know, the economy in the US reaps about $3 trillion a year from other countries just in trade alone. We sell our products. So tourism, we lost approximately $13 billion estimated total just for 2025. And now you can multiply that by 4. Nobody wants to come here to quote 1930 Germany, end quote. Drop a comment and follow for more.
Phase 2 of Florida's housing crash in 2026 is about to begin, and many people in real estate are not prepared for this phase. However, the data I'm going to show you in this video is pretty alarming, and in some cases, sellers are already starting to take 20, 30, even 40% losses on houses. Like on this house in Central Florida, where the owner took a $140,000 loss. You can see they bought it at the peak of the pandemic in 2022 for $364,000, and it sold earlier this year for $224,000 at foreclosure auction. That was a 39% haircut, meaning that the scale of the declines we're now seeing in Florida are surging to another level. In particular, we're seeing those mortgage defaults and those foreclosures now start to increase due to the fact that values have been dropping for over a year. You can see that across Florida, home values are down 5.3% from November 2024 to November 2025. That's the biggest drop of any state in the US. And if we zoom in at the metro level, we can see values are going down in pretty much every single metro area in Florida. No area has been spared from this decline so far. And here you can see the biggest declines by county. Number 1, the biggest decline for any county is Charlotte County, which is near Punta Gorda, minus 13% year over year in terms of home values. Number 2 is Lee County, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, down 10% year over year. Number 3 is Sarasota County, down 10% year over year. Number 4 is Pinellas County, minus 9%. Manatee County near Bradenton, minus 8%. Collier County covering Naples, minus 8%. Martin County on the southeast side of Florida, minus 6%. Palm Beach County, minus 5.7%. Mind you, folks, these are declines already in the books that have happened over the last year. I warned you that these declines were coming in Florida's housing market in late 2024, and in some ways it's worse than expected, because now that the foreclosures are starting to increase, now that the mortgage defaults are starting to increase, this could be something that really unlocks not just a 5 to 10% decline in value, but a 20, 30, even 40% drop in value, which I know is what a lot of you are looking at. Here's another listing with a huge decline. This is in St. Petersburg, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, currently listed for $310,000. But take a look at this, folks. The previous owner bought it for $425,000 in 2023. The price has now been cut to $310,000. So that's a $115,000 reduction from the previous sale price. And now we're getting to a price point, everyone, $310,000, which actually seems kind of reasonable here. We look at the pictures on this house. This is a livable house. This is a move-in ready house. Looks pretty nice, actually. And it's got a big, nice backyard. This is a decent parcel of land for St. Pete. 27% discount from what the previous owner bought it for, minus $115,000. And so that's what I think a lot of people aren't prepared for, is this next level of Florida's downturn. And you guys can let me know, as active buyers and investors in Florida, if you guys are looking forward to this, or you're even seeing this already happen in your neighborhood. However, when you go to the mainstream housing market analysts, they're actually trying to tell you the opposite story. They're trying to say that Florida's housing downturn is actually going to slow and that prices are going to stop dropping. Let's take a look at this article from Fortune, everyone. It's talking about how Florida's housing market was skewed wildly by the pandemic, but is finally coming to grips with a realistic middle ground, is what this article is saying. A middle ground in Florida's market. Does that seem right based on the listings I'm showing you in this video, everyone? No, it seems like a harsh correction and crash, but let's see what they're saying. Well, they're saying that Florida's housing market is in the midst of a major change and that inventory is down for the first time in 110 weeks, according to Compass's chief economist. And why is inventory down? Experts are saying it's due to rampant delistings and fewer new listings. They go on to say that now that inventory is tightening, the dynamic could start to shift because buyers will lose a bit of leverage and that sellers could regain a little power. The realtor they're quoting is saying it's not a crash in Florida, but a reset. Now that's really interesting, everyone. A couple different things to unpack there. First of all, inventory is dropping in Florida for the first time in years, and that is true. The number of listings on Florida's housing market has been dropping for about the last 4 to 5 months. So you can see, if we look at data available on Reventure app, that we have 163,000 listings in Florida's housing market as of November 2025. That's the highest level for November going back a decade. However, it is down from the high experienced in April 2025. In April 2025, we had 182,000 listings in Florida. It then dropped down to 160 and is now incrementally inching back up. Because if we look at the home sales data, the buyer demand, we can see buyer demand is down 41% from the pandemic peak. So buyer demand is literally at its lowest level in 11 years. And so what I think we're seeing here right now is the wake-up call for sellers on Florida's housing market. They're realizing it's a downturn. They're realizing it's a correction, and some are pulling listings. But folks, I think a lot of these people, would-be sellers, are going to be back on the market in 2026, and they're going to be back on a market with very low demand.
Florida is now experiencing a complete collapse. Over the next 3 years, you will see housing prices on the East Coast and the West Coast and the south of Florida drop 30 to 40% over the next 3 years. It's that dire in Florida. And what's causing it all? People are moving out. People simply can't afford to live in Florida. And many people can't afford to fix their homes from the latest storms. It's only going to get worse. If you have property to sell in Florida, you better hurry. You better aggressively get it done, because over the next 3 years, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. It's going to make the 2008 crash look like a picnic. So what is going on right now? You're seeing mass exodus of people leaving Florida in droves because it's simply not affordable. Insurance is too high. HOA is too high. Everything is too high. And even with the prices coming down, it's not going to matter. Nothing is going to save Florida at this point except for a 30 to 40% drop, because it's just too expensive to live there. And the economics aren't there. Like and follow for more. We'll be talking about it for a long time.
Phase 2 of the housing crash is now hitting Florida's market. Values, they've already dropped 5% in the last year. Demand is at a record low. That's going to continue in 2026, and this could be the year where the foreclosures finally are starting to hit. According to Atom Data Solutions, foreclosures in Florida are now at the highest of any state in America, and I'm walking around here on the ground, and I'm finding houses that are in short sales and are near foreclosure selling at 30 to 40% discounts. So it's this house here, everyone. This is the third house for sale here, just in this like 2-block radius I've been walking around in. The owner here is taking a $130,000 loss from their purchase price in 2023. They bought it for $425,000 in 2023. It's now listed for $297,000. So I want you all to think about that. A seller lost 30% from what they bought it for, down 130 grand. And when you look at the pictures of the house, this looks like it's a move-in ready house. Actually has a pretty nice backyard. I want you to think about that, like what that must feel like if you bought in at the peak and everyone was telling you that the values are going to go up forever. And less than 3 years later, you lose $130,000 from what you bought it for. This is not a prediction anymore. I initially started predicting Florida's downturn in 2023. It happened by the middle of 2024. Prices are now going down in every area of Florida.
I regret my vote for Donald Trump, and I'm ready to talk about it. When I voted for Donald Trump, I was told that I would lose my rights. I thought that I wouldn't have the right to drive. I thought that somebody would have to be driving me around everywhere. It's not the case. I still have to drive wherever I want to go. That's on me. I was told that it was going to become a communist country. We were going to be told what to wear, how to do our hair, but that didn't happen. I still wake up every day and decide how I want to do my hair. I have to do it. I have to find an outfit every day, which is really time consuming. Is not at all what I was expecting. I thought that that was all going to end. I also thought that I was going to get deported. Even though I was born here in the United States of America, I was told that I would certainly be deported. I'm not sure where, but I was hoping it would be some sort of island or somewhere relaxing. Now, I will say I do love my country, so I am not super upset that I'm still here, but all of these things were things that I considered before voting for him. None of those things have happened. I still have all of my rights, and my life is business as usual. In fact, it does feel good to have a little common sense in the air with him as president now, but these are all the things that I thought that I was voting for that I didn't get. And here it is.
Hi, yeah, we are Florida Republicans who are in the midst of deep regret over our votes for Trump. After that press conference yesterday and everything he was saying about the airlines and the plane crash, I mean, good God. I mean, we looked it up, and the pilots and everyone involved, they weren't DEI hires. What was he even talking about? We now feel like we were tricked by the Republicans. A lot of the stuff they said that got us to vote for them ended up not being true at all. None of these executive orders seem to be helping the economy or our family at all, and I don't understand why he's not doing what he said he was going to do. I understand all politicians are going to fib a little bit on the campaign trail, but this takes that to a whole new level. It's starting to seem to me like nothing that he said was true at all. I think the best thing that would happen is if the Democrats could win all these special elections coming up and take back the House. Yeah, we voted for Trump in 2016, 2020, and 2024. We live in the Florida Panhandle, and we thought that this would be good for our business, but we're finding out now that we were wrong, and I want to publicly say that we are regretting our votes at this point. My husband and me own a construction company, and we literally do not have workers anymore. Most of our workers are from Mexico, and they're good, hard workers. I talked to a few of them, and they said they were just too scared to come back to work because of all the raids. Our construction company's likely to go out of business now, and we don't know what we're going to do, but we're never voting for a Republican again. Ron DeSantis and Trump have been passing laws that negatively affect our business, and I just want to say that I'm sorry for voting for him. I grew up Republican, and it's all I've ever known, but now I can see that me and my whole family have been very wrong about this. So we hope that 2026 comes and we can take back the House and the Senate and stop him from what he's doing. There's a special election coming up, and Matt Gaetz is dead.
New York City is officially cheaper to live in overall than Miami, Florida, according to this Bloomberg article. What have I been telling you guys for years and years and years? Finally, it took a reputable news source to come out and say, hey, this is true. South Florida's consumer price index has jumped 30% since 2019, according to figures released this month. And the overall cost of living has also surpassed New York City. Not only that, but it is also the second most expensive place to live in overall in the entire country, trailing only San Francisco. The total cost of housing in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach metro area is about 5% higher than New York and its suburbs, including New Jersey. And overall, all the increase in costs that we've been going through here in South Florida ever since the pandemic is all driven by housing. Utilities, goods, other services, everything is more expensive because of housing. Even going out to eat at a restaurant in Miami is more expensive than in New York City. The average diner in Miami in 2026 spends $94. New York City, $79. And the main point I always harp on when it comes to this topic, salaries. Salaries in South Florida, in Miami-Dade in particular, are terrible. They're poverty wages, even for professionals, even for people with degrees, with careers. The Miami metro area's typical household income is about $1,000 less than the national median. For reference, the average lawyer, an attorney, in New York City earned about $51,000 more last year than one in Miami. All these years that people have told me, if you don't like it, leave, blah, 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 you're a communist, go to the blue states, Mamdani-stan, blah, blah, blah. Mamdanistan is doing much better right now than Miami, Florida. Again, I am from here, born and raised here, a Miami native. I love my city. I love its people. I love its culture. That's exactly why I hate this. I hate the fact that we're being priced out of our own city, that it has become impossible for a regular average person to live here. What you people see as a facade, guys, it is a facade. On social media, all the yachts with the beautiful women, exotic cars, flash, jewelry, money, excess, that is all a facade. The real Miami, the actual Miamians are suffering like you have no idea in this economy, struggling to survive.
Florida is becoming a club, and chances are you're not in it. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that things are changing very rapidly here. A lot of people moved to Florida during the pandemic boom because we were open. You could actually live your life here without being controlled, and people loved it. And the cost of living here was still relatively low. But times are changing, and that simply is just no longer the case. The thing is, Florida has no income tax, which makes it very attractive to live here the more money that you make. And what's happening is a lot of states have been raising their taxes specifically on the wealthy, the people who would benefit from not having that state income tax the most. And a lot of those people have been moving here. And in the past, Florida was affordable if you were a teacher or a nurse or worked in hospitality, things like that. I worked in hospitality, guys. When I first moved here, I worked at a restaurant and I had no problem living by myself, paying all of my bills and still having a decent amount of money left over each month. And on top of that, I lived in an oceanfront, one-bedroom condo with a partial ocean view, parking space, balcony. Like, those days are basically over because we have had so many people move into Florida, and a lot of them are people with money. And that has really changed the dynamic of the state and who can afford to live here and who can't. Florida actually gained more wealthy residents from high-earning transplants than any other state in 2023, according to IRS data. And the Sunshine State gained about $20.65 billion in annual adjusted gross income from tax filers who moved here from another U.S. state, according to Realtor.com. Now think about that, guys, an extra $20 billion of income. People moving in here. That is insane. That is a crazy amount of money. It's reported that the average income of people who moved to Florida from another state was $122,530, which is the highest among all U.S. states. And that's just the average income. You know, when you look at the real numbers of what people actually earn, it can be substantially higher than that. Now, this doesn't mean that Florida is not going through a housing crisis right now, because it absolutely is, you know, because the media will take a story like this and say, well, look, you know, Florida is still booming because all the rich people are moving here. Therefore, the housing market isn't going to crash. That is wrong, guys. It's actually already crashing right now. Every single county throughout the entire state of Florida has gone negative year over year in terms of median sales prices, which means prices are actively coming down and have been for a while. How much they're going to come down, though, really depends a lot on the different areas and where wealthy people actually move to. One place they're definitely moving to is right here in Miami and Miami Beach, Florida, where I live. You can see this house here was sold back in 2024 for $1.4 million. They probably demolished it and built this brand new house. And now they're asking about $4 million for this house, although it's been listed since January this year with no price reductions and obviously no buyers. But homes like that are becoming the norm. You know, that's probably what this house used to look like. You can see this house here right next door to that house is old, in desperate need of lots of repairs, and people typically will buy these houses, tear them down, and then build what I just showed you. And those type of new construction homes, which you're going to be able to see all along South Shore Drive, where I'm walking here in Miami Beach today, is becoming the new standard. Like, it's just normal now to tear down a lot of these old houses and build these new houses for all of the wealthy new residents moving in. And these houses do take a very long time to sell. Sometimes they're sitting on the market for years, but eventually someone will buy it. And so what's happening is entire income groups are being pushed out of the state, guys. I have seen countless stories on.
Here's Joe from Georgia. So some big news coming out of the housing market in Florida. And this is because Florida leads the nation in the percentage of foreclosures that are going on right now in the United States. Out of every 2,000 homes in Florida, one is going under foreclosure. And folks, this is for several reasons. One, there's 160,000 homes on the market in Florida. And number two is people are having a lot of short sales where they're selling it for less than the money that they own equity in these homes. So what they end up doing is hurting themselves financially on both ends. So folks, Florida is leading the nation, and Idaho, believe it or not, is not far behind with a jump of 59% in foreclosures rate, Georgia 52%, and Colorado with 53%. So we've got several states that are facing huge foreclosure status there in those states. So folks, the housing market booming in some places is foreclosing across the country.
I don't think home sellers in Florida realize just how much trouble they're in. There's no buyers. And there's no buyers coming to save you because it really doesn't even matter if you lower the price. Lowering the price may not bring a buyer because buyers systematically can't buy. They can't, they struggle to get insurance. They struggle to get approved for loans. Not a lot of banks are just throwing out money right now. They're being very, very conservative on who they lend to. So if you're looking to sell a home in Florida right now, you are in big trouble. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon. In fact, it's probably going to get worse. The Florida situation in real estate is getting dire, but you haven't seen anything yet. In 2026, it's not about bringing buyers to the table. Buyers can't buy, even if they want to. We're going to be discussing this a lot more in 2026. Like and follow for more.
Anyway, thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks. See you in the next video. One love.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.